We're here for another Tango Talk, this time with Aki from Christchurch. Welcome, Aki.
Thank you. Hello.
It's really nice to have you as an experienced dancer. How long have you been dancing?
I have been dancing since 1999, May 1999, because I remember it was a public holiday in Turkey and there was a workshop. You don't often get to remember the exact day, but which puts it about 25 years or just under 25 years. More than half my life.
You sliced a word in there which I missed the first time you said it. The workshop was in Turkey.
Yes.
So you learned to dance in Turkey.
I did learn to dance in Turkey, yes.
So how long have you danced in Turkey before you danced in Christchurch?
So I came to Christchurch in 2003, which means it was about 4 years. And it was quite intense 4 years because I was already, there's a bit of a backstory, which is that Metin Yazır, who some people might know, he's reasonably well known. He's originally Turkish, but grew up in Germany and somehow got involved with Gustavo Naveira and in US. I don't know how all those strands hang together. But he learnt with him and he was seen as a bit of a prodigy, and then he started dancing and teaching for a living and decided to bring it to Turkey. So, and when he came to Turkey, he thought, okay, where do I start? So he approached university dance clubs, and I was in Middle East Technical University Dance Club at the time doing ballroom Latin. And he approached the dance club and picked a few teachers to train and started having some workshops. So it was one of his workshops that I started tango with.
So you were dancing Latin ballroom before?
Yes.
Was it all that you were doing before that?
Mostly. So now we're going to the genesis of the dust and cloud formations in the universe. So I have always done some sort of dance. When I was little, it was Turkish folk dances, which is very common in Turkish schools. And then when I was at intermediate school, I finally found a contemporary dance place to learn that because I had seen it once on TV and thought that looked amazing. Then I did quite a bit of contemporary and jazz, but contemporary and jazz had the issue that there's no platform. Like, you don't go out to do contemporary dance. Like, you have to go to classes. And at university, when I found, as we called it, couple dancers club, that kind of gave me the platform to dance more than just in classes. And so as I did more and more Latin ballroom, other dances fell away. And then when I met tango, that kind of was the ultimate. I thought, right, now I've got something. It's a bit more like contemporary in that you can express the music and it's improvised, and it's done with another person, which suits me because I'm useless in self-motivation. I need another person. Like, this could never be a monologue. I would always need someone.
But that's what tango is, a dialogue.
Tango is a dialogue, yes. So tango kind of ticked all the boxes in that there is a platform that you can go and do it. It's improvised. It's not just repeated moves, which most Latin and ballroom is. And it's not as free as contemporary, but the music is varied and interesting enough that I find opportunities in it. Yes, and then 4 years later I came to New Zealand, having danced, and I had even started teaching, which I'm horrified to think now when I look back on it. So when I came to New Zealand, I had been dancing intensively for 4 years, and some of that I had already been teaching and had done a bunch of performances because that's what our University Dance Club did, a lot of performances, of course. Tango Passion was travelling and it had come to Turkey, and we went, a group of us, dancers who were already dancing, And yeah, that was the first time I saw tango, was on stage. And I was drawn to the expression of it and the strong women. And I mean, this might be something I assign retrospectively with my current age, but I like to think that I also thought that the variety of ages that I saw on the stage was part of the appeal. Like I don't know if I would have said that at the time in my 20s explicitly, but when I think about it, I think that was one of the appeals, that you can see, this is something you can do until you die, basically, right? As opposed to when you go to see a ballet, it's the same age group, you know. You never see an older ballerina or a ballet. So I guess there's some promise. There was some promise in it that appealed beyond just the. I mean, I do love the stage. You know, I was already a person who was performing in various ways. You see different things, I guess, when you see, and it's. Most people will be introduced to it by stage tango, because how would you find yourself in a milonga?
Not really. You know? and that's one of the issues, of course, that it happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
One of your introductions and relations to the dance, you said, was the element of contemporary dance. Is that more on the improvised part or the flow of the movement?
It's the expression to the music in full. So, you know, contemporary dance to me is like the highest peak of dance, because I think of dance as responding to and expressing and at times adding to the music. And in contemporary, you can do all of those things. So there's obviously use of the body is important, but I guess it's not so much gymnastics of it. That's kind of what you mean. But the expression, like, you know, it doesn't have to be difficult thing to do with your body, but as long as you're doing something that really shows you the music. Like I often, you know, what I love most about tango is that when it feels right, it feels like I'm circulating the music in my body, like I'm passing it through my body. Like that's the ultimate feeling for me, which drives some of you analytical people crazy. But but that's what contemporary dance is to me.
To me as well, you know. That's I think the fact that it's improvised and it has its structure, but the structure is more like words to communicate than a written sentence. We had a brief conversation about that tango is not black and white. And you're probably tapping into it with that contemporary part now. And the interesting part is, like you, sorry, I forgot the name of the Turkish teacher.
Metin Yazır.
But he is from the same background as Gustavo Nivara. So he's kind of the same time period as Chicho, I guess. And they were considered rebels at the time, I guess. And looking for a freedom of expression from an existing dance, and found other boundaries. You kind of have been brought up in a period where things were starting to become less black and white, maybe.
Well, interestingly, you could also say there was also a time when analytical analysis was applied.
True.
Because the Fabian, Chicho, Gustavo trio were actually also really about analyzing, what's going on here, you know, and then from that analysis, picking up the key elements and say, where can we take this to? So it's, you know, there's the expression and kind of breaking rigidity, but at the same time actually applying a different structure to then create from. Yes, so in terms of parentage, yes, my tango parentage is definitely from that analytical side, and having moved to New Zealand has perhaps potentially made me focus on music more. Like as I was saying, it's almost unintuitively, perhaps for some, that I think I've focused on music a lot more since I've been in New Zealand than I ever was in Turkey.
You write about the analytical part of that group of people and that period, because it kind of broke it apart and put it together again. And it actually became almost more technical and more analytical when they were dancing. And you could see that at the time. So it took some time to get some fluidity in it again. But when you moved here and moved to focus on music a bit more, did you process that information to use to teach other people?
Oh, I haven't taught for so long. It's a difficult question to. Well, when I did teach, I taught like I was taught, which is apparently what you shouldn't do. Yeah, so sorry, all of you who had to experience that. So I did teach in an analytical way because I thought that was a very good basis. And I mean, I guess every teacher, when they start out, not when they're still experienced, start from something that they find is the most useful to give to others. So for me, because the feeling came reasonably naturally, for me, I thought the thing to learn about the dance is about the structure, so that everyone who must also be easily feeling like me, you assume everyone is like yourself, will benefit from learning this structure. So I used to, talk a lot about the systems, the parallel system, the cross system, what happens when you mirror moves because of the asymmetrical hold, and then how do you apply, it's actually a very small vocabulary if you think about it, but infinitely combinable. Yeah. So that was what I focused on when I did teach. But also having learned from lots of other people, some of them amazing teachers, I am a lot less confident in teaching now than I ever was, of course.
You mentioned that it was difficult that you were so analytical about and trying to teach the system, almost sounding like you were taking out the fun. Was that?
I thought analytical part was really fun.
Okay.
I thought it was like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. You work out, okay, I do it on the right-hand side of the follower, and then what happens when I do it on the left-hand side of the follower? And then, that's actually exactly like here's a staccato. Oh, from here you could go to a gancho. I thought it was really fun in a puzzle-like way. It was about recognizing the pieces in a different, in a different situation, but the pieces are the same. They just happen to be, upside down, right side up, other way around, or things like that. Yeah. No, I thought it was fun, but I thought that was what there was to be taught, because I didn't even think about the potential issues of being close to another human, someone you may or may not know, what kind of background you might have come with, how challenging that might. Like, I had no idea, because it wasn't challenging for me.
Yeah.
I took that for granted. I thought, well, that's easy. It's just another person. You stand in front of them, or just come close, whatever. And the dances and the figuring out this little puzzle. That's how I thought at the time.
Is part of that, there is probably another cultural element in there. If you take a simple thing like a hug, even Turkish men would embrace and hug and kiss.
No problem.
Yeah. So that's part of the culture. And what you do see, especially beginner dancers in New Zealand or in Western world, that can be a barrier. So do you feel that's present in that physical communication possibly if you combine it with musicality. Because yes, the Western dancer might have the knowledge of the music and listens to the music, but they actually have some barriers within their body, in their mind.
I don't know actually, because I'm such a cuddly, huggy kind of person. It's never stopped me from. And then I guess I don't think about if someone is really hugging like this, with a hollow. In real life, like, in social life, I'll usually say, well, that's not a hug. You hug like this. So, that's outside the dance. And in the dance, very few people have that hollow a hug. And, it hasn't been, it's not something I focus on. I don't really think, these people don't know the hug. I'm often quite conscious that they are very precious about holding me or holding any follower, which I think has its own charm. Like, in Turkey, no leader will have any qualms about just, holding up. So holding you and, getting on to dancing, which is really nice. But I think there's something quite charming about someone taking really, when it's when they're overcoming a barrier, perhaps there's something else that's charming about it.
Do you experience it? I experience it as a lead that you feel if someone has barrier issues and doesn't allow you in or doesn't want to step in. Do you feel that as a follower as well, that some people might be cautious about it, or some people might be too grabby?
No, luckily I haven't had any. Probably none grabby experiences, or that I noticed. It's possible I didn't notice. It happens, I suppose, in the social dance that we do in the community. It's very rare, because by the time you're social dancing, I guess you've overcome certain things.
Yeah.
If and when I'm dancing with more of a beginner person or an early person, then it's definitely very obvious. The variety and number of things that they need to think about include being really close to another person, whether woman or man. Yes, I do notice it, but I think it's something that kind of needs to evaporate over time. Like, I don't know, what would you do? Would you do hugging lessons?
It could be, but
maybe you do.
It could be included in, and I think
in the curriculum it should be included.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, if you talk about a tango curriculum, that definitely is part of it.
And the funny thing, actually, to realize now that the Turkish element, if I take Murat, one of the classes were workshops where there was, an emphasis on getting close and to kind of, actually, there was like, people get closer and I try to push people closer in a group. And it's, people, this is tango. It's a contact sport. If you're not comfortable with it, pick something else.
It's not for you. I still think that's a really important part of it. And the most creative dancers do look at that side of tango, the puzzle side. So that's still valid. But yeah, if I critique it, I would say, okay, maybe in this population, whichever population you're in, you also need to recognize how hard it is for someone to be right in front of another person, let alone someone from the other gender. Like, and how fragile adults can be in terms of being taught something. And quite a few adults have, are quite successful in their working lives, and then they come and are told to do stuff that they can't do. There's all that psychological part, which I didn't really think about. And in general, it hasn't been an issue for me because, I don't know, I'm generally easygoing. But yeah, on occasion I would observe it from others. Like a student would take another person has said, completely neutral if you ask me, but they would take it as a big offence and it would be a big deal. Like, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on.
It is, but I think it's a really important part because that's actually why we have these talks, because normally that doesn't surface and people all struggle with it. And, it's part of most beginners. That is all this information. The other week it was a new group of beginners and it's at a class and you see the energy and it's, this kind of excitement. And part of the excitement is being with a mix of people, not just trying to memorize a few steps. That, a lot of people just want to know the steps. And tango is not necessarily steps. It's a movement. The dance happens between the steps for me. And then you got the whole complexity of person to person, and people really like or people actually don't like, and then still have to be together in a class, and then have to communicate, not only about the dance, but from person to person. Like, can you hold me a bit lower or a bit less tight, or you're standing too close to me, or you have to lean forward. And as soon as you say something like that, and someone feels offended. How do we deal with those things?
I don't know how we ever go past that stage. Like, I really don't know how come we have the number of dancers we do have. Like, how does so many people survive that? Yeah,
there is only a small number that survives. Classes.
It's a certain percentage, but still, even the numbers I see, it's amazing. Like, how did we all get over that? It's extremely tricky. I mean, learning first thing is extremely tricky. I didn't quite have the same experience because I was already dancing and was used to, learning things that I didn't know and not being good at it. And, I'm not, and I've never been like the dancer who picks up things immediately anyway. So I guess I had come to it with a certain fitness, let's say, of knowing that I wouldn't pick up everything quickly and it would take time and it's okay. But if this is the only dance that you've ever done, I guess sports is an advantage as well. Like, that's the other thing here, that there's a sports culture. Whilst there isn't a dancing culture, there's sports culture. So people often have some idea of their, where their muscles are, and or have the acceptance that things will take time. Like, you'd have to practice.
But people want to come and have fun. So, you go to salsa and with eight lessons you're away and have fun. And where in tango people want to have fun and kind of are loosely about it, where the dancers that have fun are the ones that invested a lot of time in it.
Yes, it's very expensive dance from that point of view, like time expensive.
Yeah.
you don't, yeah. I don't know. At the same time, I thought, I really did believe, and I think I still believe it, the fact that tango is also something that you can enjoy with the level that you have. Because if you think of it as a language, you also mentioned it is a language, right? So you're learning the grammar and you're learning vocabulary. If you have an open mind and if your teacher shows you how to open your mind, then you can actually have a lot of fun with very little grammar and vocabulary. It was quite standard. Like when I taught with Rima, we used to have, we'd at some point, not the first class, but at some point we would show the basic 8, and then we would say, okay, it's basically what we're doing here is we're saying, hello, how are you? Thank you, I'm fine. And then we say, well, what if you said hello, hello, hello?
Yeah.
How? You can play with the little that you have, and that's actually special about tango. At the same time as saying it does take a long time to master some of the skill. I think there's a lot of room as you go along in the journey, if your mind is open to it, of course, to have a lot of fun with everything that you already have. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's if I teach again, which I want to, I'll focus on that more.